There are 30 names that have a permanent place on the Wall of Fame inside the Buffalo Bills Stadium. 10 of those names either played or coached for the team in a Super Bowl. 9 of them were here for all 4 Super Bowls between the 1990 and 1993 seasons. And for the better part of a decade, Rich Stadium was a hotbed of NFL activity when other teams knew they'd have to play through Buffalo to get anywhere good. So which came first? A stadium with a reputation for an almost insurmountable home field advantage, or a team that just couldn't stop winning? Well, that's for you to decide.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Van Miller in Orchard Park, New York, and the road to the Super Bowl goes through Rich Stadium.
Holy mackerel, they did it again!
Fasten your seatbelts. It's playoff time.
Touchdown! Touchdown! Touchdown, Buffalo!
Where else would you rather be?
Allen back to throw, gonna run it, keep it himself to the 40, jumps over a man.
Touchdown!
It is bedlam. It is pandemonium. It is pandemonium. It is fantastic.
You know, obviously your name is kind of lumped in with the Super Bowl era, but at the same time, I didn't realize how early your career started and how long you had played for the Bills. So
it began and ended with me.
It began and ended with me. That's how Buffalo Bills legendary linebacker Darryl Talley described the team's success in the late 80s and early 90s. He's almost right. Of the Super Bowl players who have their name on the stadium's Wall of Fame, only Jim Richer arrived in Buffalo before Talley did. Richer played an incredible 14 seasons for the Bills from 1980 to 1993. The Bills drafted Darryl in 1983. The rookie was joining a team that had now gone multiple years without a playoff appearance.
See, well, the Bills hadn't been to the playoffs since 1980. And the guys were telling us how things were and this is how the game is played, this is what you do, and things of that nature. So, yeah, it was a huge learning experience for me.
He told me when he got to Buffalo, the stadium, then called Rich Stadium, had an immediate impact on him.
First memory inside the stadium was not believing that one side of the field was slicker than the other side. Because the visitor side of the field used to be so slippery, you could hardly stand up on it. When you go to run that way, you'd already start chattering your feet so you could start to slow down.
While Darryl was figuring out the mechanics of Rich Stadium's AstroTurf, other key pieces arrived in 1985. That year, the Bills drafted defensive end Bruce Smith, wide receiver Andre Reed, and quarterback Frank Reich. Much like Darryl, Frank's first memory at Rich Stadium isn't exactly a fond one.
Well, my first memory, I won't say best memory, is in 1985 when we were 2-14, and it's the end of the year, and there were 10,000 people in the stadium for a home game. I mean, that's crazy. And the stadium held 80,000.
But then 1986 rolled around.
Topping tonight's Eyewitness News, the expression Kelly Green takes on a whole new meaning tonight. The Kelly is quarterback Jim Kelly. The Green is the $7.5 million the Buffalo Bills are going to pay Kelly to bring the Bills back from the dead.
We signed Jim Kelly, and the place, right, season tickets sold out the, whatever.
Many Western New Yorkers will remember Jim Kelly was actually taken by Buffalo in the 1983 draft, the same year as Darryl Talley. But the quarterback opted instead to play for the Houston Gamblers, a team in the United States Football League. 2 years later, the USFL folded, and Jim Kelly finally signed with Buffalo.
You had to live through that era of the Kelly years. Was he coming to Buffalo? Jim publicly would state, I didn't want to come to Buffalo. And Channel 7 assigned me to do the Kelly story. Then they sent me to Houston to try to get an interview with Jim when the Bills were playing the Oilers in an exhibition game. And I was there for 2 days and, was woken by a phone call on the second day at 4 in the morning that they had signed the contract. And we went live on Channel 7 at 6 a.m. with the first report that Jim Kelly had signed with the Bills.
Kelly's arrival was a delayed but instant jolt of electricity for this fan base in Rich Stadium.
Obviously, the whole city was crazy, and football was like, people were just waiting for something to happen in Buffalo, especially at that position. Basically, you could go to the ticket office and there were lines now waiting to buy season tickets.
Jim says he still remembers his first time in Orchard Park in a Bills uniform.
I remember walking into it when we went to minicamp. And I remember walking in and, wowing it because how big it was and, what it looked like and everything, and then the memories of, who played there before.
But that wasn't his first time at Rich Stadium.
Was that your first time there when you showed up for minicamp, or had you been there as like a kid for a game or anything like that?
Well, number one, as growing up, I really didn't know much about the Buffalo Bills because really they weren't being shown a lot. I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh,
sure.
Steelers. But to be honest with you, the first time I ever stepped foot into Rich Stadium is when I played for the University of Miami. As a matter of fact, it was the year that Syracuse was building their dome, so their home games, some of their home games were being played at Rich Stadium. And as a matter of fact, that was in date myself, I think 79. I came to that stadium and thinking, I was a backup at that time. And I was redshirted, and I was hoping, get a chance to play, not thinking, Buffalo Bills and, Miami, but I wound up starting the second half of that game against Syracuse in Rich Stadium, not knowing that many years later I was going to be playing my career there.
Fast forward to September 7th, 1986.
The very first game Jim started was against the New York Jets.
And that first game, I distinctly remember, I don't know who we were playing on. For some reason, I think it was the Jets.
When Jim Kelly walked out onto that turf at then Rich Stadium, it was as if they had already won the Super Bowl. It was electrifying.
First drive with Jim Kelly as the quarterback, takes him right down the field and scores a touchdown. That place was just going crazy, as you might imagine.
The excitement, after going through the 1985 season and what we did, and then to have, to start with Jim Kelly in 1986 and to feel the electricity in the air because they knew that he was a different player.
The promise of what Jim Kelly could bring to the team suddenly was unveiled in front of everybody. So that was a great moment. That was definitely a moment that stands out as one that gave me chills, being in that press box watching this all finally unfold.
In that first game on September 7th, 1986, Kelly threw for nearly 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. But the Bills ultimately lost 28-24 to the New York Jets. He says he doesn't remember that day for any of the stats or the final score.
That's one that when people ask me that what's my favorite game of all time, there's so many when you play a number of years in the NFL. But for me, it was the first one, without a doubt. It was when I ran onto the field and I looked up and I saw my mom, my dad, and my 5 brothers, knowing that I made it. Now it's time for my mom and dad to kick back, relax, enjoy life, because I know the life that they led us in, it was hard times, but love, without a doubt, top shelf love. But growing up with a family of 6 boys, and my dad being a steel worker and machinist, my mother working in the cafeteria, we didn't have much. And all our dreams, me and my 5 brothers, our dream was to be good enough to be able to take care of the 2 people we love, and that was mom and dad, because we know we put them through growing up. Imagine, 6 boys.
Yeah.
Jim Kelly may have been the headline, but 1986 also brought center Kent Hall, wide receiver Steve Tasker, and head coach Marv Levy to Orchard Park.
There were a lot of stadiums in the NFL. I'd been in many of them, and this was certainly one of my favorites because of its location, because of the team owner, because of the fans.
2 years after that, the Bills drafted running back Thurman Thomas.
It was a process, like it didn't happen overnight. I mean, as great as Jim Kelly and Bruce Smith and Thurman and Andre and the whole list of characters, Tally, all of those guys, as great as all those players were, I think we were 4-12 that first year, with Jim. And so it didn't happen overnight, but it happened pretty quick after that.
It did happen pretty quick. In 1988, the team went 12-4 and made their first trip to the postseason in 7 years. They actually made it all the way to the conference championship game, but lost to Cincinnati. In '89, the Bills made it to the playoffs, but lost to the Browns in the divisional round. And you know what happens next. 4 straight seasons with a Super Bowl appearance. Between the 1988 and 1993 seasons, Buffalo played 55 total games at Rich Stadium. The Bills won 49 of them.
Well, it's awesome because, especially for a quarterback and for defensive line like Bruce, for me it was silence, and you knew that the advantage was going to come when the opposing team was on offense. I mean, think about it. Bruce Smith rushing a passer, Darryl Kelly rushing a passer, Cornelius Bennett. Oh my gosh, I mean, that was awesome. When you had that home field advantage, you can get off the snap just like that.
I do think there was just something about the home field advantage of Buffalo in Rich Stadium. Late in the year, we just knew was bigger than any place else in the NFL.
Trust me, I know what it was like to play in Kansas City and play in Pittsburgh and play in those stadiums that were loud, and you were the quarterback on the opposing team. So our fans always have been great.
I mean, for me, I experienced it going the other way, right? For playing there for 10 years, and then I played for 4 more years after I left there. And I remember, going back there as a visiting player. And 2 things I remember is, wow, it's different coming in here as a visitor and being on the opposing sideline. And no matter how much you think you can prepare for that cold weather, you can't.
Home field advantage in Buffalo meant we got to play you in our type of weather. We got to beat on you in the cold. But you didn't want your arms to get cold. You didn't want to get smacked on them. You didn't want your fingers hurt. Yeah, that's when it was like, we wanted to get your ass out there and torture you and then beat you to death. A little sadistic, I would say, because we wanted to freeze you, then beat you. Then beat you, then freeze you. It didn't matter to us which way it went.
Yeah, definitely a little sadistic, but what Darryl said really shows the pride this team and this fan base take in cold weather football. Marv says some of the coldest games are actually his fondest memories.
My favorite memories, too, were it was an outdoor games that we played in one of the most winterly cities in the league, loaded with fond memories. And I forget the frozen toes I had and all that stuff.
And while some hoped the new stadium would finally mean a dome for the Buffalo Bills, Darryl said he never bought into that.
I would imagine then you like the idea of playing football outside. You probably are happy that the football is continuing to be played outside.
I think the game is meant to be played in the mud. If I had my druthers, I'd much rather play in the mud because you could have more fun in the mud. You can get a lot of your frustrations out on your offensive guys because of the things that they're doing to you during the play. So yeah, you can get yours in, and it actually slows everybody down and makes them use their feet, and you actually get to see guys use their talents.
Bills fans look back at Rich Stadium during the Super Bowl years and they think about winning. But the players we talk to think back to those years and they remember family.
It was like our backyard. It was like our family backyard. Like when I was a kid, we'd go out back and play football. Like, the locker room, the stadium, the locker room, the meeting rooms were all right there in the stadium. And we basically walk into the stadium for practice. And it was like we were all boys. This is what we do.
The cast of characters that I met and the guys that I met shaped and formed me to become the player that I did because they taught me things that were not taught in the classroom, that wasn't taught on the football field.
We practiced in Rich Stadium. That's what's crazy. Like, that was our practice field. And it was the old AstroTurf, right? I mean, so all these studies they do today about how bad it is and how, we're practicing on cement. There was a 1/4 inch of padding and then a little piece of carpet. And we practiced on that for 10 years. It was crazy.
And it was, 10 degrees outside, so it was just even harder than it would have been otherwise. You were like literally playing in a parking lot.
But it was like, that's what we grew up in. And it was so comfortable to us. Not that we weren't cold, but like you had a mindset like it didn't bother you.
It's my home away from home. That's my house, and I don't want anybody disrespecting it and acting stupid in it. And if you come in there and you act like a rude neighbor or a rude guest, I have to put you out. Or I have to put you out your misery.
Like I said, it was more than just the stadium where we played our games. We practiced there. We go on the 4th of July. There were several 4th of Julys that I took my young girls at the time, to sit up in the top row of Rich Stadium and watch the fireworks from the top row of Rich Stadium. Saw Elton John and Billy Joel in that stadium, you know. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just more than a stadium to me. I mean, it was really an extension of our family backyard. That's really how I feel about it.
For Jim Kelly, who stayed in Buffalo after his retirement from the league, some of his best memories in the stadium have come after he stopped playing.
For me personally, is being able to have my football camp for kids. Because the reason I say that is because I had one trip to Three Rivers Stadium when I was a little kid, and that was when I was in punt, pass, and kick, and I thought that was the greatest thing that I ever seen was inside that stadium, because I grew up loving it. And now being able to have my football camp there and have all these kids, and you should hear the parents too. Some of the parents said they never have been that close to the field before, and just to hear them, and then the kids just run around and they're mesmerized by everything and looking around, and yeah, always has put a big smile on my face. There's no doubt, other than me being on that field, is having young kids with their dreams of maybe someday, well, not anymore playing in that stadium, but the memories that their fathers had, their grandfathers had of coming to that stadium and watching us play the game. So, yeah, there's no doubt is watching the little kids run around that field.
In passing the love for this team onto his own kids.
My daughters are the biggest Buffalo Bill fans. Oh my word! If they buy one more hat, one more hoodie with the Buffalo Bills on it, I'm like, come on, girls. I mean, you got like 50 of them. What do you need another one for? And I'm sure everybody out there can relate to that. Your daughters or your sons always want one more.
Yeah.
But I just had loved every moment because my kids are so into the Bills that it makes me excited.
6 members of this franchise's Super Bowl era are not only legends inside this stadium, but also have their names in the NFL's Pro Football Hall of Fame. Jim Kelly, Marv Levy, Andre Reed, Bruce Smith, James Lofton, and Thurman Thomas. So whether it was the team that made this stadium great or the other way around, those years, those wins, and those memories will only make it so much harder to say goodbye after this season. But right about now, that famous question from head coach Marv Levy comes to mind.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now?
That's an easy decision.
What makes it such a special place? I know it's just a stadium. It's a building.
No. The thing that makes it special are the people. The people in the city are what make that team and that city so special.
The memories will live on forever in that stadium.
Oh, golly. I don't know if I could single out something alone. I remember the fans. They're the greatest fans in sports to me. So supportive and a lot of fun.
The people who are Buffalonians, true Buffalonians, right, because of the weather. We all know the weather's not great, but like the people who are there because they know it's special and they don't want to leave. And so there's something to be said for that.
I don't know what the percentage of wins that we had when I played in that stadium, but every time we took the field, we thought we were going to win. And it didn't matter what the score was in the fourth quarter, we were going to come back and we were going to win this game.
Jim once said, no one ever wants to come to Buffalo, and once they get here, no one ever wants to leave. He still lives there.
And I know that back in the day, I did not really want to play there, but it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, was becoming a Buffalo Bill and playing right there in Rich Stadium.
There's just something about Buffalo, right? And it's not just the players who have felt the pull of this place enough to build their post-football lives here. Many people who work for this franchise or cover it in the media, they've been here for decades.
I have a history here from prior to it being built.
Working for the Buffalo Bills, absolutely, it's a dream come true.
This team that was just up the road from me has now become my professional life.
Unbelievable. Memories that you can't even imagine.
Remember, there's no cheering in the press box.
Behind the scenes stories from One Bills Drive on the next episode.